Yidet was shukwa Christian aya hay ide kakkonik asa aushayech we ya huch iyejini yes ya hain ya hechwasaku wasagach sa semester talk shuwu gosh ye awa siaden a dekuk routine ya a iti sandech ak khatqaye ya khuqa hadla wanach saya twasaka qoti qoa wan qanins chaqudide qoti ajoy shugo a hain kakquanik du yejne yidat aqa qwall adawuzi ya chadasa yitwasaku adat qaqartu laati ya twasaka qoti ya huchi ya gi aya Tlingit tu tultubu ya tak gwalli twasaku qo ade slinde yiquhu yak ka December 17 qone yakwahig ade December ade khatne shanach disi ya jenkat kadakadushu yagi ya wahi yakwahi awe qone yakwahig aqanach aya kejin yagi ya shanach dis ya tleqa ka tlek yagi ya wahi qa tlehuch aya ha yejini ye awa ya dacha we intermediate Tlingit hasti tuasagu we Christmas at shiki dot ye jitunei seqanen qosh ye qotich aye gugeng ya khana ya tatsu qosh dat yu qaqartula ati we ade at ya dudzene ye ka we verb conjugations ka gwash shkalnik tayi chadasa yituati etinech ge yeti gachtu art dasa shachte u
Shashikide ke rechtuat ke?
gwash ye gachtu art ye awa
Ordative?
qatu art gwash nachtu art yeah yake in kakponig natsu yake
That one was on the online Nation Story Verbs.
oh really
It was different than odd.
oh qatu art like let's go up there
Yeah.
okay
I don't know if it's right.
well once so once we put the day on there it's gonna want to be na conjugation we always na day and dach will always push a so we did a little bit of that maybe we'll have to do a little bit more but a motion verb actually we'll see it when we start talking about handling verbs but we'll just listen and observe and we'll give feedback later but yeah
I appreciate the feedback. I knew it.
yeah because yeah and so no matter where we're at we'll all have various feedback on some of this stuff if you notice something you can certainly say or, raise a question we're doing this all whoosh yejitunei tutlaantin khusakhantin helwasa oti ha kwashyata khoa ye awe khwaach yata yach ye awe yake yingewani uksa yadachega okay oh kwashakhi
Or maybe I'll say a second point.
okay what's that tam yata atinachiyati or atunachu chatutli atgil.
Coco Shashaki K Ratu Art Dot. Question Aya. So this is my book, little book about going up mountains or hiking. Some words you might need. In Kisha Yakshay. Yana Kon Patra Kisani. Atra Kisani Tinach Yati Nuch. Day Shatina. That should be up here, but
Okay.
Yan account to check planning and packing for a cow to I saw that word for planning and also directions. So I don't know which one it works better for. But
Okay.
to make plans, some phrases you might need are blanke itinach iati, blanke ijiwa, gwahni, kateh, kinak at, teh, kinak at, itinach iti nuch. Tuk na at ke ijiwa. And maybe you'll say cake, I didn't pack it. And this verb root chalk is for packing. I didn't know if it was specifically for packing food away or.
It could be, it's generally like stacking, but it works for packing things into bags.
Okay. More phrases. Ugwash ituake gsagu iyane tuke blank. Maybe you'll want to pack iyane took inside your backpack. Atra kisani. Oops. Question. Atra kisani ijimu ayuwa kishe kach lakask ta eche.
Okay.
Very important as wasa. Kukoti siuda guksetan. Hatsu ituake guksagu it's kina adi nuch. Ke kuk of a hatsu ke kuk sit hot. Hatsu kuk what Pwedesa ituati dak ade ke ituasagu gachtu ade dak which day path or trail, just the way. Gwash dak day ke gachtu ade achtuasagu chet sha kalnach gachtu ad. This is want to go up Thunder Mountain. translation in there at one point. Put ke gach to art.
Okay.
Wat je ka good away. Dak a day you gach to art. Wat at nachte. Katu she nachte. Take a dag wish gonna yade ubu. Gusu uhan. Kuch ha the art. Gwas ayat gach to the art. Ja, ayanach the gut. They gout. Koude fit. Nach to art. Het koude aside. Tlech achto ushkuya kinna. Keep up players if you know how to say that, but sometimes you gotta stop. Get eeg, aya, to saw, yeah, you got blankety nach gekety, they should have you, you got to walk, ja, het should have, make big, got to art, into, looks good. That was like the command for be happy, but I thought maybe you would translate to have fun.
Oh, okay.
Ucha.
Okay, graag een cheese. Asa ito asa good in kaini ida question. Adasa ito asa ku ito asa ku kwati. Oh, okay, okay. So I'll give you guys feedback about these later. Atchach isani, that's one thing I did notice. Atchach isani is because it's the isani combination for the little plurals. So atchach isani is little foods. And then there's a couple other things that I'll just kind of point out, whether it's K or yay in the front. For a future verb, how do we know whether it should be yay, K, or nothing?
The conjugation prefix.
Conjugation prefix, right? So if it's ga, you're going to have K every time in the future. If it's qa, you're going to have yay every time in the future. If it's na or zero, you'll have nothing, just the verb. That's a constant. That also applies to progressive imperfectives. So yana gut, yana squeen, yana squeen, any of those. It's ya for all the zeros and the na. If it's ga, it'll be k. K nakain. It's getting better. For the qa, it'll be ye. Ye andakan. Ye andakan. The sun is shining. Oh. Khatsiya achke? Oh, okay. No, those aren't for just motion verbs. That's for all verbs. Every verb in the universe, the futures, ga is going to get k, qa will get ye. All futures will be long and high. Negatives will be long and low, unless the stem doesn't have long and low or is invariable. A couple other things. Whenever you start one of these, if you're asking what specific thing, the gets replaced by the specific thing. And then you have to have the sa to complete the question. So you'll say, Daqa sa ituwasagu. Daq guqa sa we ituwasagu. Daq qawe yicha. And so that's just which one of those, right? But then those can be replaced by a noun. Can
you clarify that Just one more time. You said the sa goes away.
The sa can't go away,
Needs to be retained.
but something could go in between it and the sa. So for any of those questions, gu de sa, gu dach sa, gu nach sa, gu sa, so that one tends to want a suffix, but then there's others. And then so like even da sa, there are things you can put in between, and they'll usually trigger the T at the end. So for example, I'll say, da sa chitzin, what is strong? But then I might say, dat ya nach sa chitzin, which one is stronger, right? So what is stronger? Or I might say, what, yeah, dat ya nach sa chitzin, way Dwayne Johnson, what's stronger than The Rock, right? Way te. And same with this, whatever, like dak nadak sawe ituasagu, yach ayaka gachtu clean. Which table do you want to sit around? And then I see
Daucha de sa.
Or just doc de sawe.
dak de sa.
Or sa.
So the is just it's like the filler. It's like which thing?
Yeah, so dak is which one of them. And so it could be any, and then it could be named later. But then if it's a specific noun, like, so it's sort of like which one, like dak as. Like if there's some people over there, and there's some ladies over there, dak sa itla, which one's your mother, right? And then, but I might say, which language do you want us to be making? And then oh, for cooking? That's a good question.
Could you say though like Daucha sa itla, like which of those women is your mother?
Yeah, that would work.
You could like fill that in.
So those are zeros. Cookins are zeros, and so that's why you get nothing in the future. But you do sometimes get the ga that pops up there, but that's not the conjugation prefix. There's another type of ga, which is to do something for yourself. Like a lot of times that gasa'i or gachsa'i gets interpreted as I'm going to cook and we're going to eat it right away. But it could also mean like we all live together in a house, and then like, what are you cooking? Like, cooking ramen for myself, right? So like, it's for me. It's not for everybody.
So I feel like in one of the like dialogues, maybe like an introduction dialogue I've done before in some class, I remember the sentence, Daucha nach sa isiti. Does that?
Yeah, so it's just like, what clan are you?
But it still has the in it though.
Yeah, because it's just saying which one of them
Oh,
are
okay.
you a clan member of? And so there, because it's not a specified noun, it's just nach sati. So for example, and so there's a number of different ways that you could use that. So there, it's just about which one of them, because it's dak is already just pulling from this limited set, right? So like da sa is just like what. Dak is from this finite set. There's only so many options.
Okay. Sheesh.
Mm-hmm. So Ida says, so for a future, yeah, so this is a good question. So for a future verb, you're going to get, let me pull up a handout for this one so we can walk through. I think I've got it. So we're looking at the future forms of Tlingit verbs. There's a chapter in a text that I started working on. I'll probably pick up now that all this other stuff is kind of done. And so one of the things that Ida is talking about is when we talk about like how Tlingit verbs work, there's stuff before the verb, objects, thematic, conjugation, subject, classifier, stem. That's the order that it goes in. There are some conjugation things that will sometimes jump over subjects. Like that's just something that happens sometimes. But that's the order that we go in. And so, but then there's these sort of debates going on about what types of things are we what are we looking at, right? Yeah, away, ida, itua gesaku wujin katushiti kakakwati. So one of the debates is we talked about this conjugation class. And so when something is a ga conjugation, and you'll say the ga part, like a command form. Yisikuge, do you know how to say be good? Somebody better know.
Okay, no.
Okay.
Igake, right? So igake. So the ga pops up because that is a ga conjugation verb, right? So as we look at that, we say, okay, well, for that one to be good, right there, igake, right? So that's what you say to kids, right? Igake. And we're doing like some, I have a feeling if there was a Tlingit cookbook, we would use future forms instead of commands, right? Instead of like mix it up, it's like you're going to mix these things. I don't know, because we were doing a baking thing in class yesterday. And so you see the ga pop up right there. And then, yeah, and you can, yeah, maybe we'll use hortatives, right? But you can't use a hortative for like, well, I was using a hortative maybe for that, let it sit, let it rest. Like if you're making dough or something, let it rest for a while. But otherwise, you're sort of telling somebody, and so it's something we'll figure out. Because in English, I think cookbooks generally have commands, right? Like mix this, do that. But I don't know if that seems like harsh, like someone's gonna like throw that Tlingit cookbook across the room, like stop telling me what to do. But as I thought about how to sort of represent some of this stuff with what's going on, let me pull up this picture. Oh, I think it's in this slideshow thing. Oops. Maybe. So we're on 46. Oops. So as we come through and we sort of say, okay, if we imagine Tlingit grammar as a bunch of switches that we could turn, and there's a little light above it so that it can just be off. A lot of these things are just off. And then you could turn them on. And this is just another kind of metaphorical way to think about it. So if we look at where the conjugation happens, it's really these four things, right? Or I don't know how many. 1, 2, 3, 4. These four switches right here. And so you've got something on before the aerialis, you have the aerialis itself, something after, then you have the perfective in the qa mode. And so one of the things that we've been sort of thinking about is that, well, there's this ga and this other qa that you pop on sometimes, and it doesn't seem to be related, and a na as well. So even though it's not na conjugation, you might say, like for example, ke na kain. It's getting better. So that na is really serving a kind of a purpose there. When you say adekakwagut, I'm gonna go there, there's some things you're getting. You're getting ga, qa, and then kha. All those things together get you kakwa. or sometimes kukha, right? You could say it either way. So one of the things that we're trying to figure out in Tlingit, we being sort of linguists and folks who are working in the language, is when we look at this, are these all the same thing? And one of the theories is that there's actually two different kinds of go. Or maybe it's the same thing and it just sort of, but I think in order to just think about how it works and to teach it, I usually say there's two gas, there's two nas, and there's two qa. But you cannot have two ga at the same time. You cannot have two na at the same time. But you can have qa and qa. Like qa qasti. Let it exist. So when we look at the future, one of the things that we're kind of saying is, where'd my thing go? Oh. That doesn't want to stay. Okay. Is that we're saying like you have this ga, qa that's in there. And that doesn't, regardless of what the conjugation class is, every future is going to have those three things. And the kind of theory is maybe they don't really mean anything. They're just used to put the verb into a certain mode. But before that, you're going to have K and ye, which are separate, right? That has to do with the conjugation class, right? So you'll say ye aguchtagan, it's going to sunshine. Ke kwak e, it's going to get better. And so that's something we start talking about with the future mode. Is that thing got frozen? Okay. So this chapter, it goes through examples, right? So this is what the futures look like, right? So here's a zero conjugation. So you say adaguch sa'ach, adaguch sa'ach. And so the other thing is recognizing some of the things that are going on. So in this verb, adaguch sa'ach, there's a few things to sort of note. One is this is a 3-on-3. So if you change this to first person or second person or fourth person, that should go away in the front. That's something to just keep an eye on. If you look up the verb and it says akak, then you should know that if we're going to say kakkwa'ak, the A is going to fall off. Same with this one as well. And so this one, zero and na, so there's nothing in front of the verb. So for the future of I'm going to break this rope-like object, or I'm going to break daylight, because in Tlingit, light is a rope-like object, because that's how you break it. Right? So you say, aguchlakoots. Aguchlakoots. She or he is going to break a rope-like object. But for something with ga, keitaguchla'an. Keitaguchla'an. And so sometimes when I'm talking with my kids, like I'll use futures quite a bit as a pretty soft command, right? I'm going to drop them off somewhere. I'll say, ke kwak e, you're going to be good. Ke you're going to be nice, right? So here's the K. So the object goes in between the K and then the verb itself. And this is a state verb, so it takes an object. So, we're getting ready to go for some language event, and we just want to remind ourselves, right? Regardless of what anybody else is doing. And then this one is invariable for the on. So it'll stay long and low. And then qa, she or he is going to freeload. That one is another probably invariable stem. Ye atka kwachuch. Ye atka kwachuch. And so the k'uts, to break, Ida is asking, like, where's the rope part? For breaking, this is one of those verbs that has just these built-in categories for it. So if, I guess, where's the verb dictionary? So if we look this up in the verb dictionary, we go to break, we're going to start getting these, and there's certain things that just has a lot of categories. And so breaking is one of those things. So we're going to see to break, wash is for something to break. And then we have break off pieces of food with your hand, break fairly fragile objects, break again. And sometimes you're saying for it to break, and sometimes you're saying for somebody to break it. And so this is, a lot of times you're going to get a zero classifier group switching to an L when someone is doing that. And that's something hard to remember, right? So if you're saying wusha, you're saying she or he broke it, as opposed to it broke, which is, and then breaking something by bending, breaking long objects. So these long objects, this is how bones break. That's my great-grandma's name. It's broken bones inside. She used to get teased by her sons. And then to break halibut hooks, right? So like that's a very specific, because like how do you say break? What are you breaking? Halibut hooks? Because that's got its own thing. Break into pieces, for it to crumble, to smash up, to break rope-like objects, to break off from one solid object to another. And so it's just sort of, again, in our path of learning, there's just these things we're going to run into where you're like, oh yeah, there's like five, and same with throwing, right? So throwing's another one where these are just things that you can start practicing. And how do you do? I think if you use the language every day, then you'll do that. So you'll say, don't break it, or she or he broke it. If an engine breaks down, it's this one, because there's some part inside the engine in the Tlingit brain that's long and, like a rod or something that breaks, exactly. So throwing is a similar type of thing. So if you're going to throw something, you've got plural objects, keeping one end, so like a seine net, to throw something that's heavy, to throw a large bundle of things, like a bundle of firewood or an anchor, a ball, a stick-like object, a general but usually non-rigid object, like people. And like yen shwit like a toddler. My daughter, why'd you throw yourself down?
How did they do this? Like, how did they?
Like, how do people learn from birth, or what? Or how do they come up with it?
No, I'm curious about like Nation Story when they were like in Angoon in the 60s.
Ah.
How did they record? Were they like I wonder like how in general, but usually non-rigid.
Yeah, they were just talking it out, and you figure out, because what it comes down to is how you're going to do the thing, or how you're going to expect the thing to happen. And so those are some things that you'll think about, and that you'll realize that the language is communicating a whole bunch of stuff very quickly. And some of this stuff is important. If you're going to throw your money around, it's going to be yashlit, so it's going to scatter. And then there's going to be like to throw a spear, because this verb root is to poke something, to push something onto. And then you could throw something like a missile, right? So throwing a snowball is different than throwing probably a basketball, right? Because you're trying to peg something with it, as opposed to just throwing it somewhere. you could throw a basketball like a missile. And so that would be a different, so like you can pass it, or the guy fouls you and you throw the ball at his face, and that's going to be the missile one, right? And then you can also throw it specifically at the head of something. So it's just kind of, like lots of layers, lots of fun stuff. Um, the other thing that's similar to this is carrying things, right? So if you want to say, hand me this, bring it there, bring it here, uh, and this came about because the student said, I want to play fetch with my dog. I was like, what are you throwing? Because, when you're saying bring it here, it depends on what type of thing it is. And so this is the point where we start thinking about all these different categories. Think it as putting things into these categories all the time. And some of these categories are types of verbs. And the types of verbs, there's like it's a state verb, it's an act verb, it's a motion verb. But then there's also, it's an upward verb, a downward verb, an ongoing verb, a coming to a specific stop type of verb. Yeah, yeah, and it could be, and so it could be like, and so as you, like when I think about nation story, I think about some of the work we did with these carrying verbs, because they were getting, we found them in nation story, and then this general object and other thing, but then as we talked to elders, and they were explaining to us why is it, because we were just trying to guess, would it be this type of thing? And so some of the ones that were unusual would see container with contents, and so they had a little plastic fruit cup that had a lid on it, and so would say in, and then say no, that's te, and we're like, but there's stuff in it. They said, yeah, but it can't spill. And so we're like, oh, so it has to do with how you need to carry the thing, right? So for example, you have baggage and personal items, right? So this is why a suitcase is called a tla'adi. And so this one would, would be, hand me the suitcase, I guess, and so it's probably not used as much as some of the others. There's some that are certainly used more than others. But then, hand me the small, round, or hoop-like objects, like some nice dream catcher earrings, or maybe a bracelet or something might fall into this category. And so what this is showing you is the ways it's going to change is the verb root, and that root's going to have some type of meaning, and then perhaps the thematic is going to start changing. And sometimes it makes sense, and sometimes you just got to memorize it. So you have a textile object, so like a blanket, a towel, a jacket, those would fall under this category because there's just a certain way you got to pick it up. And so in Tlingit, like that information is communicated to you by the verb that you select. And then, and so some of these are theories, like is this the same verb root or is it a different verb root? I'd have to go back through my notes and see why I was predicting it was a different verb root. But yeah, because sometimes what you have is you have the same root and then the classifier changes or the thematic prefix changes. And this is what Tlingit does. So Tlingit, you have a verb root that has meaning, and then you'll have some sort of verb. The default is usually a 0 classifier. And then you can change the classifier to create a new verb. Because maybe you need to say, oh, somebody does that, or it's this type of thing. We're specifying what type of thing it is. The next step that you can do is you can add a thematic prefix or multiple thematic prefixes to it. And that's how you create new verbs. And then you can also, for certain verbs, once you add specific words in front of it in the preverb, now it becomes technically a new verb because the meaning is different. So if you say yati, that's different than someplace yeyati, and that's different than yachyati, and that's different than shtunyati. And so there's just, and so the root still means to be, but then you end up being some pretty specific kind of things.
The prefix that comes right before the root in all these, a lot of them look like she or se. So did you say that the
Classifier?
classifier, did you say that the she classifier means like having the characteristic of sometimes?
So most commonly, I think you switch from a 0 to an L or an S to say somebody's doing that.
Okay.
Right? So like, Yak-a, it's good. Yishik-a, you made it better. You improved it. So sometimes what the classifier is doing is just saying somebody's making this happen. But another thing it can do is to start saying we have these different categories now. So, but the one thing I did notice was with the L, it says to have that thing. But it seems to work with body parts. So like if I had a sweater that had ears on it or a hat, it could be shikukus ah, a hat with ears on it. Shigushi hit was a house that had a big dorsal fin that was put onto it. So the sh works like that. And in the same way, you can have shush. So you'd say shush jinni means it doesn't have arms. That's the name for a vest. Okay, and then Shauna Kate has a question. Let's get to, yeah, so we have textile-like objects, so a fabric thing. We have a container with contents, so you say achjitsa in. You have this one is pretty interesting because it's either you're carrying it in loads, like especially like food. We're going to pack up all this food and bring it into the boat. But it's usually all of one type of thing, and especially to bring stuff home. So that one is, we'd say, achjit kajesh. Achjit chana would be like a stack of towels, something you carry in a bundle. Maybe you want to bring me these big bundles of dry fish. You can certainly do that. Oops, I didn't plug my computer at home. Then you have a whole bunch of different types of objects. And you're going to have achjit saneh. So hand me all of those things, all of those different things. Then you'll have this one, there's a number of verbs where the end falls off in the command form. So like a live creature, which is usually a baby or a puppy, or because you don't carry animals around very much. But you'd say achjit saneh.
And that gets short. Sorry. Does that go short and high then?
And so we'll get to that, but right now they're all going to be short and high because achjit, the T on the end, is going to push it to be a 0 conjugation. And we'll talk about that in a second, how these motion verbs work. So then a dead creature or a sleeping baby, achjit sata. Or it could be any, but it's usually a sleeping small thing because most things wake up if you try to carry them around, right? An empty container or hollow object, achjit tan. I'll put this list. There's a list, I don't know if it has all of these in Hausane Chayuchatangi, but I'll put this one up on our website, and I'll probably finish it over the break. I'll show you what I was trying to do with this one and with a different one. My goal is to list all of these and then to show them in command, perfective, and future. The rest you can figure out.
Do people just who are like birth speakers, they just be able to move from one, like if if somebody fell down and hit their head and you're carrying them, they're alive, right? Would they just know which one to use?
For these, yeah.
To be like live creature versus sleeping, slept.
And we would use the language, and then they'd tell us, you got to say this, say that. And so one is this stuff had already been documented, so we knew it was there. But then as we work with speakers, they'll just correct you. And it's just really interesting because you'll learn this stuff, and you're like, how could somebody possibly know all of this stuff? And then you'll talk to a speaker, like I was visiting with Nora, I was like, Hakaya andaganyayagi. And she says, Ye andagan. Like it just stood out to her like that. And she would just spot it. And so, especially those elders that would work with you a lot and they would just know what kinds of things to look for you. And some of it is that, getting that preverb right. Why those three modes? Well, because everybody can figure out the rest. I guess you could say he's in the process of carrying it. I'm like, they could do that. But just to sort of start getting us, like, what's the most common way you're going to use, like, bring that thing here is going to be, bring it here, brought it here, we'll bring it here, right? I mean, because we can do, like, future is predictable. Yeah, what? But this is it's already enough information to try and get all these different verbs, and so I wanted to have a quick reference sheet, was basically it. So then you have stick-like objects, and let's kind of walk through this a little bit. So this one is, really this one is like a long stick-like object, like a rifle, a broom, a hockey stick. Achjit satan.
Achjit satan.
Achjit satan.
Achjit satan.
And then, like an actual stick, achjit katan.
Achjit katan.
Achjit katan.
Achjit katan.
And then a small stick-like object, like a pencil, achjit kasatan.
Achjit kasatan.
And then just a general thing, like a rock or maybe a book, achjit te.
Achjit te.
And also abstract things. So they'll say, Hajit wuduwati hayu chatangi. Our language was given to us. So conceptual things work with this one as well. A round object, like an apple or a basketball, achjit kate.
Achjit kate.
A complex object, so it has internal parts, like maybe a phone or a computer, a string, a massive string perhaps that you got to carry all together in one hand, a woven container. You got to carry it carefully, right? Achjit sate.
Achjit sate.
A round frame-like object, a string of small round objects, so like maybe a drum. Achjit kasete.
Achjit kasete.
And then we get to rope. So this is going to be rope that you're going to pick up. So you've got coiled, uncoiled, and then some. So this first one, you're going to pick it up by the end. So this is what it's telling you. Pick it up by the end, pick it up so it doesn't uncoil, and just grab it. It's kind of a big mess, right? And so that's what these three things are sort of classifying for you. And so you're going to have jisate, jiksate, or jikate, and jiksate. And so it's getting really interesting because I think this is information that I would probably classify as somewhat endangered. Like not every speaker is going to sort of know all of these things. And then there might be some sort of debates about which one should be this one. But this is something that we should figure out. So I've got a card game that I've got to finish as well. And the card game is basically, there's a set of, well, I'll show you guys. So this card game, let's see if I can find it. So basically there's a bunch of objects and then there's these sort of color or pattern coded things. So there's a stack of nouns, so you have a deck of nouns, and then you'll have a deck of commands, right? So achjit, achjit kate, achjit sate. And the goal is somebody who's flipping over the command cards and you put one and you match it. And if you match it, you get rid of your noun. If you're wrong, then you got to take it back and draw another noun, right? And then the goal is just to get rid of your nouns. But there's a couple that are kind of interesting, like you could say, if it was your turn and you had the commands and you've got achjit saneh, it's like everybody give me one of everything, right? It could be something like that. And then achjit kajesh would be maybe I could say "Achti kachel we'kag," and then I get all of the apples, all the apples going. So I don't know. I made the cards, and then I was trying to. We were just goofing around, and one of the students was like, "But how do I win?" And so I was like, "I don't know." Figure it out. So that's step one. Step one is getting like these. What? There's 12. I don't know. There's like 20 of them. I don't know. About 20 different verbs. Right, so remembering these verbs, probably picking the ones that you're going to use the most. We'll talk when I get up there. And maybe, so she's saying, so one of my theories is that you have two types of prefixes. You have prefixes that have meaning, like sh and the arealis. The arealis means the verb didn't happen. The perfective marker means, well, let's look at it strictly in terms of whether it has already happened or not. And then you have things that just have function. Ga, and qa. Some of them are just they're just putting it into some certain mode. But there could be something else. There could be something there where they all have meaning, but for some reason when you put them in a certain combination, then you start looking at it in a different way. So, yeah, okay, well, we'll argue about that later. So then these are, since they're carrying things, these are all motion verbs. And motion verbs are different than all the others, primarily by this. They can take any conjugation prefix, but that conjugation prefix is totally determined by the type of motion, which is usually signaled in the preverb, or just by throwing it into that if he's going up the hill, you're going to use a g conjugation, right? So this is something, so then you're going to get these motion preverbs that just sort of push the motion verb into that sort of thing. So if you have to arrive at something, especially with the T, in particular with the T, nicht, it's going to be uwagut, because that's a zero conjugation. Once you put the T on there, achant, uwagut. Once you have that T there, that pushes it into this zero conjugation category. And then that's why you say nesh gu. It's short. And it's not going to be nagu, right? And you're going to say ha gu, right? Because it's this one right here. So there are these categories of motion these preverbs, and we just start to like I got to use this one at the language conference, and I was very happy. We had the men's session, which was very harsh. And so I came out of it and I said, and I really wanted to say that. So it's as if our canoe ran aground, right? So because you don't get a chance to use that very much. Maybe I need to get into boats more. But as we sort of look at these, yun, it reached the shore. Yun uwakuch, they came ashore, right? And so these are some things, some of them are going to be more common than others. Some of them are going to be these combination of things in the prefix. So the other thing is you're going to have uchke, it was out of control, hini, into the water, yek, down to the shore, by mistake, to return. And so when we say return, you'd say kuch with the gut. He came back. So there's a couple of things. One is it's going to be a zero conjugation, and kuch should push the classifier plus D. So these are all things that we're trying to sort of package into these things. So the new dictionary, also there's a chapter in Hausene Chayu Chatangi about motion verbs, and then this activity with these handling verbs, because that's why you'd say achjit te, but you'd say wait de na te, bring it over there, right? Because you've got the day on there, right? So there's a whole bunch of these. Qone, to start walking, that's going to be a zero. Qone uwagut. So it's short, right? And then there's all these different types of motion, and we get into the n whoosh ka nach. There's another one. Daseir, to trade places. And the other thing is you could say whoosh daseir, and any of those handling verbs, and that's how you say to trade. Whoosh daseir watusidne. We traded things, right? Like a bunch of different things.
Renee,
That's
it's been a while since I've looked at this, but I always found it easier to hit the 0 ones last because it's the default. There seems to be more, instead of trying to remember all of this, there seems to be a logic to the other ones. And then I don't know if that makes sense to you, but everything else is 0.
It does. It does. Yeah, that's a good point. So maybe we'll have to switch them around in the future. I guess I just do the 0 first because I always think of 0 as the default. So it seems to me, so like a default verb for me would be a 0 classifier, a 0 motion, and a third person. But, you know, because that's where all the zeros are. And you could have a verb that I think has technically 4 zeros in the prefix. I don't know if you could do that, maybe 3. I don't know. Anyways. So yeah, you could say whoosh daseir kautusitan haunayi. We traded rifles, right? So whoosh daseir. So daseir means to exchange places. So in Tlingit, there's no actual verb for trade, but you would use whoosh daseir and usually some kind of handling verb. Okay. So the na conjugations are probably some of the most common. De, towards, dach, from, along, gunde, to go to the bathroom, nach, nak, ka, and then ti, so like at especially, to just move around at a place. So these ones are really common when you get to motion. Way de, hit de, nail de, hundake hiti de, shagwe dach, sheet kade, any of those dach de, once you hear that, it'll push the verb into na conjugation. And so instead of uwagut, where these will all be wugut, they're going to go long, right?
With day it goes long.
Yeah. The day is long. So, and so this is just something to keep. But these zeros and the na, again, the futures are, they're not going to be anything before the verb. These will be ya, do yaka naguti, ya nagut. Although all the progressives are going to have ya na anyways. Except for and there's not very many g conjugation, right? There's one where you can just sort of say it's going up the hill. Although there is this one, which isn't in here, I don't think, which is, there's a command form. Like, I don't know if you guys have heard this, but if I said, ya ga g, what does that translate to? The first time I heard it was this sentence. Chashakatch. Kashtagenach gagutch. That's the first time I heard it. And I was puzzled. I didn't know what was going on.
Porcupine.
Chashakatch. Kashtagenach gagutch. Ida, you might have written that one down years ago. But then, so this is a command form of it. So that's the habitual form, gagutch. Here's the command form, ya gag. So here's the context. I'm walking around with my kid, and my kid's running around. They're not supposed to be running. And one of the things that they say about parenting these days is, don't tell them what not to do, tell them what to do. So instead of saying, don't run, I'll say, walk. Ya ga gu. So ga-gu, it's a g conjugation, and it means just to do that thing. A porcupine walks slow. So that puts the focus on the motion and not on where it's going. Because when we first started trying to tell kids how to walk, we were saying atnagu, but that's really just saying go walk around, take a walk, take a hike, right? Atnagu. Yagagu is how you would say walk. And we saw this pop up too in the town bear, country bear story when the people come or the dogs bark or something and they're eating the trash and he says, "Ki sheikh, ki sheikh." That just means run. There's no direction. It's just, we're doing something. Like I was at our kids' preschool today and I looked over at these kids and this kid's like, "We're not doing anything bad." It's just like, yeah, you are. You're too young. You gave yourself away. But gi sheikh would just mean just run. But it could mean run up the hill, right? So you can have, following, and so this en dach, this one's a little different. This doesn't mean to leave the house. It means nadak dach. It took off off of something, right? So any of these, like pick up a card, pick up that cup, you should say ach ke ach kasein. Pick up that cup of water. So what you're saying is it's going upwards. If I have 4 cards here and it's your turn and you're going to pick a card, I would say ach akate. Pick up a card. Pick up one of them. There's the ah. And I can also say dach ach gate. Pick up 2 of those cards, right? Because you're taking, and really what the ach, I guess what this should, maybe a clearer way to say it would be lift it off of that, but it could be like a bird taken off as well or something like that. And go ahead.
Ach is short for dach.
Yeah, ach is adach, and you'll see it both ways, adach and ach. And then kut is to get lost, right? And so this is why kut in the future will have k in front of it. Then you have the downward, and again, there's not very many of these. Ya, moving down. Yach, getting into a boat. Yanach, moving down into the ground. And so there's got to be some sort of downward motion. Hin, going down into the water, falling over. So, for the downward one, there's no kind of put. There's not this one concept that pushes it. It's got to be a generally downward kind of emotion, going down into the water and stuff. Once you sort of move it, your concept, I think, will move it into that more than anything. Okay, that's probably enough. So then, well, I guess I was going to show these and all of these different, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what I was doing. I started this years ago, and then I found it yesterday because someone was asking me on Facebook, how do I say bring it here? I was like, oh man, depends what it is. So I guess I'll put all of them on here.
That's great.
So with the modes, as you guys, so I'm trying to give you guys a bunch of stuff to think about over the break, because breaks are good, but breaks are also where we can just be those kids who aren't doing anything bad, right? Where we can just, if you take too long of a break, you're going to come back a month from now, and you're like, oh man, I forgot this stuff, right? It's so easy to just walk away from this, and not even mean to, because it's just not there. You have to go get it. Until we actively are successful in creating or finding those spaces, collaborating on those spaces, we've got to give ourselves these tasks. And this is one of the things. And so progressive imperfective, it's in the process of happening. Perfective, it happened. Imperfective, it didn't happen. Imperative, do it. The perfective habitual, and some of these, like, we'll probably, at some point, I think we'll just change the names of these. I think we should just call it, it's happening now, or it's in the process of happening, happened, didn't happen, do it, does it every time, or happens every time. So it's a little, because there's two general ways, I guess 3 general ways in Tlingit to have repetition. One, yeah, we should name these in Tlingit. We were using the ye da du ne. It happens, right? And then it'll switch to a ye wu did zine, yo did zine. So yeah, this would be, so this is, it's like this. So there's one where like, when he has breakfast, he only eats Fruit Loops every single day. That would be the perfective habitual. It's like that all the time. Then there's another one, which is repetitive imperfective, which is, yeah, he eats Fruit Loops, regularly. And then there's a type of repetition where it's like, clubbed it on the head, but it's something that happened a bunch of times in the same occurrence, right? So then, but what's interesting is when you have the negative version of that, like you would predict that, okay, if this is it happens all the time, then the negative would be it never happens. But no, that's it. Just when you put the negative in front of it, it means it hasn't happened yet. So this is how you would say anything like, I haven't seen him before, I hadn't heard that story before, I haven't eaten that. It's just it hasn't happened yet. That's all you're communicating. Because if you just use the negative imperfective, you might end up saying, I don't eat that, right? And maybe that's not what you're intending to do. Future, gonna happen. Negative future, not gonna happen. Hortative, let it happen. Repetitive imperfective, happens. Then we get these potentials. And the potentials are they're pretty fun. But this is getting into some, you guys are in the advanced class, but this is some of the advanced stuff. To get a potential, you're going to have the conjugation prefix, the irialis, the qa mode, and a plus I classifier. I don't know, this is one of the ones where like that whole minus I plus I means it happened. This is one case where you're like, maybe you're just theorizing. But those are the things, and then you're generally going to get a long and low stem. But so this is going to make it really long. So he is sleeping. Ta. He slept. Wu-ta. He's going to sleep. Kak-kwata. He cannot sleep. Kesh-ade un-qata-yi. So un-qata-yi. But so you've got this I on the end. But for this, like, akwata is akwata, sorry, akwati. What am I doing? Akwati. So that's the actual potential form. So I could say, gwash akwati. Maybe she or he is going to give it to him or her. Gwash kesh akwati. Maybe she or he is not going to. So it's signaling this maybe type of thing. But kesh ade on its own means no way. Right? So we saw that in that Raven story. Take kesh ade. No way. But then you can have this kesh ade long verbiye, and that means it can't happen. There's no way it can happen. I can't climb up there. I can't, there's no way I can cook that. There's no way, so, and these can also be used like to know there's no way I can do it, there's no way you could do it, there's no way he or she can do it. I've never seen it like we can't do it, but I'm sure that it's fine. You just got to learn how to put those things together. And then Decessive is like would have done it. It's getting a little, it's the exact same thing, but you're going to put this in marker on there. And then conditional, which is sort of like whenever it's this way, there's going to be this other thing. So the conditionals are pretty rare. So usually if you're going to just tie things together, you'll do it with just a relative clause. Yake irsatini. Right, so irsatin, we just throw the relational suffix on. Now you know it all.
Could we practice saying them all together to kind of feel the difference?
Yeah. Okay. Dujideya akanatin.
Dujideya akanatin.
Dujideya akanatin.
Dujideya akanatin.
So a progressive is going to have ya or ye or ke. Every single time. It must be one of those three. It should always be there. And whether it's ke or ye depends on the conjugation. It's going to have na in there. And if it's open, it will close. This is why chosaku or ausaku becomes ya anasquain. He's starting to get it, right? And that's why you say ya nasquaini. They're the ones who are starting to know. They're beginning to know. Right? Dujita kawati.
Dujita kawati.
Dujita kawati.
Dujita kawati.
Kesh dujit akawate.
Dujita kawate.
Kesh dujita kawate.
Dujita kawate.
Dujit kate.
Dujit kate.
Dujit kate.
Dujit kate.
Dujit akutij.
Dujit
Akutij.
Dujit akutij.
Dujit akutij.
Kesh dujit akutij.
Dujit akutij.
Kesh dujit akutij.
Dujit akutij.
Dujide akakwati.
Dujide akakwati.
Dujide akakwati.
Dujide akakwati.
Kesh dujide akakwati.
Dujide
akakwati.
Kesh dujide akakwati.
Dujide akakwati.
Dujit akati.
Dujit akati.
Dujit akati.
Dujit akati.
Dujich akati.
Dujit akati.
Dujich akati.
Dujit akati.
Kesh ade dujit akwati.
Ade dujit akwati.
Kesh ade dujit akwati.
Ade dujit
Akwati.
Dujit akwatiyen.
Dujit akwatiyen.
Dujit akwatiyen.
Dujit akwatiyen.
Dujit akatini.
Dujit akatini.
Dujit akatini.
Dujit akatini.
Okay. Yeah, so the conditional isn't like when he gave it to him, he was happy. It's like when he gives it to him, he'll be happy. It's like this thing results in this thing every time, right? Okay. Thoughts, questions? So we did this the other day, and I put this up there. I did finish it. So again, it's just going through all the known verbs that you have under the ach, which means to hear, to listen, or to sound off, to make noise. That's going to be the same, right? And so there's some fun things too, like I think we translated this thing a while ago. Dasa dua ach. How would you translate that? Dasa dua ach.
What's that sound?
Yeah, what's that sound, right? Duwa'ach is a sound, right? So you could say, Ye'awa ade duwa'ach ye. That's how it sounded, right? Because there was a story. Aqawe, we nuktawe awa ach. Gau yachawe duwa'ach. Hu. Ye'awa awa ach. Hu. This guy was walking and he heard a grouse. And he says, they sound like a drum. Gau yach duwa'ach. Right? So these are so to be able to hear, so these are the types of verbs you're going to get: to hear, listen to, obey, give heed, be able to hear, listen for, hear a voice, to hear with understanding, to comprehend, to take time to listen, and to play like a musical instrument. There's a few that are in the Naish story that aren't in Balki Shawu's work, and there might be even some more in Lear if I took a deeper sort of listen, or if I dug deeper. So there's to hold a note while singing. There's to echo, to barely hear or to mishear, to rehearse a song or a music, to sing out, to raise your voice. I think we saw those ones. So rehearse, and here's some examples. Deish to ut katush achin. We already did that, right? So the day, when you put day in front of a verb, it means it has already happened, right? So Mr. Know-It-All, I'm telling you stuff, you're like, dechwasaku. I already knew that, right? And then you have to lengthen a note, and then to raise your voice or to cry out with a loud voice. To echo, something to echo. There's another one which is to sound off. I don't know if that one's in here. And that's sa'ach. It's just sa'ach. Keinasach is how I hear it. Tlingit. So it's a different sa'ach than the other one. So I don't know. I think it's just a classifier, maybe. So it's similar to this cheit sa'ach, to listen. But anyways, that's how I hear it. I'm not sure. I'll have to see where I don't know if I found that one. Then you've got some ka verbs, to say, instruct, or tell. To send on an errand, to say a certain thing, to scold, to state the facts, to announce, to tell a certain thing, usually in the imperfective. Instruct, give orders. Another way to instruct or give orders, usually on how to give a speech, whereas this is usually to do some specific work, which is why you have ch as opposed to ka. To tell someone or to promise, say what the price of something is, to criticize, to offend. Then we have tahan, a whole bunch of tahan verbs: speak to, call on the phone, make a speech, stop talking, different phone call one, think it over, make up one's mind, put trust in, have faith, decide or make up one's mind, to change one's mind, to reconsider, to speak or make a speech, stop talking. Oh, the plurals. You can have plurals for probably all of those other ones. And then there's some that were in there, like to convert, tuchtu detan. So like got their turn, you got their thinking to go backwards. So kuch is in reverse or to return. Repent, so again another kuch verb. To discourage. Achtu yade yuche watan. He tried to discourage me from doing it, right? And then this is an old way. This is just to not be able to speak, to be mute. To remember. And then we have neek, which is to narrate or to inform. So there's to to talk, to say, give facts or information, to tell on, to tattle, to explain, to tell the story of, to tell stories, oh, these are the same ones, oops. And then we have gossip. So Tlingit is to gossip or tell tales, to disagree, to prophesize, and then those are the same ones. I made a longer one, I guess I have to find it, where I just got all those neat ones together, including like to be likely to tell stories or likely to gossip. So.
Can we go back to the gossip one?
Mm-hmm.
Where is this on the website?
Usually I put those handouts under Learning Tlingit and Advanced Tlingit. They'll be under each, whatever day we talked about it. So Tlingit is for somebody to be a gossiper. Tlingit. So that's a pretty fun one. Tesh ushnikt. Like that's pretty interesting because it's got the repetitive on there. Like a gossip now, it probably used to be. Right.
A converted gossip.
Yeah, right. With the ton, right? They converted the gossiper. Okay. Any questions, thoughts? Tesson's a go. We haven't finalized all the details, but I'll email it. It's December 17th to 21st. There is a language conference on the 13th and 14th. That one's in Whitehorse, and then the language gathering will be in Tesson. We'll probably cover a bunch of similar stuff, try and push ourselves into immersion probably the last couple days. We haven't really decided on a format yet. We're all moving a little slow, but I do want to just plant the seed that's going to happen, and then I'll let you guys know details as I know. Okay. Anything else? So I'll work on getting you some feedback on the things that you do, but just keep going. Like don't worry about mistakes. Just put stuff out there so that it's easier to see what kinds of things. Because usually as you guys do language performances, then I'll just catch things, and sometimes I'll point it out if it just comes into mind, but other times I'll just make notes and then we'll just circle back to it later. Just because I'm trying to just practice having a safe space where we can just try stuff out. Because I know in the past, like I've seen language spaces where it's kind of harsh treatment, and I don't know if that's always the best way to do things. And so, where is a kawa'aku and audayik? Okay, so a kawa'aku, and where was audayik? Where was that one at?
How Raven made the tides.
Oh, okay. Audayik. It was in that book. Okay, let me pull it up. I'll find it. So I'll show you where a kawa'aku is, but then
I found a lot of things that were close for a Ka'agu, but I didn't find it.
oh, Krishchish. Yeah, do as much as you can on those Tlingit translation books. This was just for good practice. What we'll do is I'll probably send you the translations. Let's see. Let me find where. Do you know what page either of those are on? Oh, this one here.
Page 3.
So we're going to look up yiq and see what we could find. We'll start there.
Une.
Asa.
Khat aya. Win Suchia.
Yakeo Satini.
Cheat Wu Khantiai. Where
Ida.
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 Yake.
Yak Hosatini.
Awe.
Joe says I've been converted as we were laughing about that verb there.
Oh, nice. Yeah, awe. Kuchtu Titan. We chakut kunana away. Kashatua Ashko has to inka kunikaka ayi away.
Gunja Chuan Khat aya.
I don't know. I thought I said perverted, but he heard converted. I don't, anyways, okay. Gonna say
Okay, we'll have to bring back you guys' 10 little Ginjichuan Kisani for just for fun. Okay, so kach au de yik ya de kwatli kadu tau ka atkau de ya ye ayahin khashuch yen de kin. So let's see. Iqte yu utlejin kayen kachdayi. The tide is going back. You got clams, seaweed, all these good things in the water, these edible things. The water's too deep. Hin qatlan. The water's really deep. Kesh akach utlej. The tide doesn't go back. The people are really hungry. This isn't right. It says Raven. Like he drops his feathers? Is that what that is? Huh. No, it must be this one. I'll have to look. I might have to look that one up. That was a while ago. Kach audiyik. Hold on. That's a good one. Oh yeah, kach audiyik. That's a really interesting one. So it does have to do with. Let me find where we were. It's this one right here. So it's to put on. Kach audiyik. He put on his feathers. So he put on. Kach audiyik. He put it on. Yaduchwachli, his downy feathers, kadutawu, and his feathers. And then he went and flew out over the water. Because in these stories, sometimes Raven can be a person. So he's a person, then he puts on. And then akawa'aku, this one. Yaqis atkawa'aku. So this atkawa'aku, we'll look in the new dictionary. So I know it's in there. So one thing that you could do, since this one is a PDF, is you can copy that, and we'll see if it works. What's going on there? And then paste, and it doesn't come up with anything. I know it's in there.
Can we access that toolbar on the left from home? Because, man, I haven't found it.
To be able to search in the dictionary?
Yeah.
You should be able to. It should be Command F or if you're on a PC, Control F. But so one thing is you see kawa'aku is we should predict that that comes from a verb. So we'll look for aq. So here's a. Let me zoom in, sorry. There's the adach and ach type of stuff. Here's ak. Here's aq. And so we get to try, to attempt, to test it out, and then to plan, to order, to command, to decide about it, to plan. So usually you're going to get yun or ut in front of it. And so we have this ut in front of it, right? Yaqis atakawa aqu. So in this one, what you're having here is a verb, and this particular verb is this one, right? So this lady commands the tide, right? And so it's really interesting in the cycles of Raven stories, because I think he fights with his uncle, who is the moon, and defeats him, although the moon still controls the tide. And then not long after that, he encounters this lady who's sitting on the tide. So like the world floods and then it sort of subsides and he rebuilds the world. He finds fire and he finds water, and then he goes, and different storytellers tell them in different orders, but then he finds that little old lady who's sitting on the tide. Qis akach shanadze nuku shanak. And then he roughs her up, he beats her on the behind with these sea urchin shell, and then she lets go of the tide. And in the Susie James version, then he marries her, and then they go on a few different adventures with these killer whales, hosting a potlatch, a few other things. And then the cycle comes to its end with the box of daylight. That's a lot of the versions that we're seeing in these sort of real long yesh kutak. Yeah. Okay, so send me what you've got. Just list the sentences, or if you get time. We gave those out quite a while ago, so take a look at those and see how close you can get on the translations. Now, what I'll probably do is just put the English versions. I'll probably wait a week or so, probably after the end of next week. I'll put the English versions up on our website so you can see how close you came. Okay. Goodness cheesh. Echa. Wish yekach tu steen. Yeah. What's that? That's yeki. Naskiki aya. So we'll get together Monday, and you guys will just share your guidebooks. You're taking the language somewhere, and these really you're just coming up with a concept, and then we'll collaborate. We'll make a bunch of little books so we can just start taking our language all over the place. Okay. And Chitu, I'll give you a call before I head up that way, just so we can chat a little bit. Yekecha, Johan. Feel free to ask questions if you've got them. I think Rob Kutliek, you asked a question. I don't know if I got to it. I said I was going to talk about it tonight, didn't I?
She was asking about elephant.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so elephant has two names that I know of. Shaqait, which is also the name for turkey. It means snot nose. And Tlingit, which means limp nose. And so those are the two names I've heard. Tlingit was made by a Shaqau Ish up in Yakdat with his grandma. And then, let's see, let me make sure there wasn't anything else. Yeah, I think we did a question about adjectives. answered them. Oh, ye kuwat. Right. Okay. Yeah, so yek Gigoy Juan Shigach Steen Kaikiki. Send me an email if you got questions, and good luck. Remember, everything is painful.
Are you gonna have office hours tomorrow or next day?
I think I won't tomorrow, but I'll be there before class tomorrow.
In your office?
Yeah, probably by like 4:30. They're bringing me some cake tomorrow, so look at me. Shigach Steen, Johan.